I heard a cover by Junior Brown. Junior Brown was country. Oh, we're good. We're just sitting over here jawing about. So we're fine.
Great.
Whenever you're fine, we're good.
We're gonna start it. All right. What do you want to cover first? The rate? Me again, or?
Rattle died down. What do you think, Chip? You want to start there, or you want to start? Okay. Well,
All right, we're going.
all right. Thank y'all for coming.
I appreciate everybody being here. I know it's been a hard time on everybody, but we are trying to get this work done.
Sure. Well, I guess I wanted to start with kind of some basic foundational stuff, and then maybe see where we go from there. First is I think, and you can disagree with me and tell me if you disagree with this point, that's fine. I think there's an expectation from the public and from our community, I mean, that's the greater Carter County area, not just the city, but the whole county, that we have animal services. So if we're going to have animal control, we're going to take care of animals that need that care, you're going to have an animal shelter. So I am assuming at a foundational level that the county is not interested in disbanding it or walking away saying we have nothing.
No, I'm with you, agree with that. We've got to have one.
And that's what I thought, and I understand that. I think that's fair and reasonable. So that's one point. And then the second is really, it came out near the end of our last conversation when the four of us were discussing it. Somewhat was mentioned last night a bit at the county commission meeting, but not on point. Discussion as it related to the land, but I think the underlying issue was whether the county had as a plan B to build their own shelter and run it independently of the city. And I think the conversation as it was from the last meeting, and I've not heard anybody disagree with it, was from the county attorney at the time that if the county's operating a shelter, all the county residents are able to use it.
That is correct.
So we're in the county and y'all are in the county, we're all in the county together. So that being the case, I don't know what the number was that was thrown out at the last meeting. I thought it was like 1.2 or whatever the number was, doesn't matter. But if your intention is having one and running it, and I think Commissioner Johnson even said last night, either the county needs to have it or the city needs to have it. So I think that was a fair summarization of what he said.
Yeah.
Instead of y'all going and building your own, buy us out. I'm saying, why don't you buy us out? You can have the one that we have.
But why would we buy you out when the contract now, we own the building?
Well, I'll give you a couple answers on that point. One is, when it was built, it was about $200,000 plus from the county, 200,000, give or take, from the city, and roughly 90,000 at the time. I don't know what it was called, if it was the Friends Group or not, because that's not how my notes have it from the former city manager. It doesn't matter. It was outside funding that funded it. So we had not half, it was, I'm gonna have to do the numbers, but of public money, we were equal, and we also donated the land. So we're willing to entertain y'all taking it on, and we'll figure out how to go from there.
You're actually putting it out for us to take the whole thing over.
Buy our interest out of it.
Here's where some of this gets tricky. I'm one vote. Ultimately, this comes down to Travis is one, he's one, Simmerly's one.
I'm 0.
Right. I can put out there all day long, but I've gotta have 12 people to go with me. You all got to have what, 4? I mean, that's an option I don't care to go back and put out there. I mean, I can sit and agree all day long, but ultimately, it's still gonna come down to the full body of the commission. And I mean, Mr. Hill has worked diligently with ours, me and him on this back and forth, a solution. One thing I can't say, he has tried to make this work for both sides. I mean, I'm gonna stand with Travis on this one. He's looked at numbers back and forth, where and when. This has never been an option. I don't care to go back and ask our committee. But again, I'm only one vote, and this is gonna come down on our side to what will pass. The same as on your side, what will pass. I can sit and say no all day long, just like you can, and that's what we done in the last meeting. But ultimately, how will your 4 guys go versus how will our 13?
I think, what was that number, 1.2 that was quoted?
I think.
You think that would be easier for the commission to go through? To go to?
I don't know. I mean, again, you'd have to sit and say what you.
Well, you know, I guess it, you know, I guess that's the way we're having to do with my proposals and take them back and see if they'll work.
I mean, I have no problem going back and telling them you want us, basically in short, you want to give it to us. Well, I was prepared to give it to you all. I mean, it goes both ways. It's just somewhere this is not right because
Oh, it's
you
not right.
all agree one way, we agree another, and she's caught in the middle. So,
Let's put some numbers on that.
Let me see if I can find the right piece of paper. When I look at that, I just want to make a couple statements. I think it makes no financial sense to have duplicate services.
I'm agreeing with you.
Right now, I know it's not the best matrix to go by, but we do have 1 year of data for the call ratio from a third party. We have 5 months of intake, which we could extrapolate out and come up with a relatively good number, but we are coming into kitten season. So I think you're gonna see that number go up. But my question is, if we take this over, where does this leave all of our future partnerships? If we can't make this work out, how are we gonna make anything ever work out?
I'd hope we could wipe the slate clean and start over, because I think there's opportunity for us to do things that are of mutual benefit.
Yeah, I would think that each issue or each chance for partnership stands on its own merits.
Well, and to your point, I don't want to get too far afield here, but I've offered in previous commission meetings, and I've offered it personally to some of the folks involved at the Park and Rec Board, but not for nothing, but we're willing to help and facilitate some work at Gap Creek Park if there's operation maintenance there. I'm not telling you what that answer is, I'm saying that the door is open to that, but that's an example. Again, I don't want to get too far down the road there, because that's not what for tonight is for. Is we're willing to have a conversation about operation and maintenance because we have staff and equipment. County takes it on, you'd be more or less starting from scratch. So for us to take it on, if we have the staff time available, depending on what the expectations are. So I'm saying the door is open to the conversation. That's not that there's a done deal. You have to work through that and find out what that means. And that's a conversation with Mike Maines, City Park and Rec, to see what his park maintenance staff can do, what time we have available, and what the cost is going to be. So that's just one example to say, I think the opportunities are there. And there are times when it makes sense for us to work on things together. I know that we've had some traction, and we'll see how we play out going forward on the hiking and biking trails in Hampton. Well, the city through the water department happens to own the mountainside to protect, our spring, which is important to the whole community's clean drinking water. Well, that's an added benefit for the community if that can get developed, and that's nice, but it's in Hampton. So I think the partnership there makes some sense. But again, I know the details have to be worked out. That's a conversation to have, but just for 2 examples and not to get bogged down in it. Those are opportunities. And again, that's a funding question for the council. It's a funding question for the commission. That's a conversation that has to happen to get on the same page. And I don't know that we are on the same page on those, or we've got something fully formed where we're going. But the opportunity is present, and we can discuss how that happens, or if it does. And if we don't, then we can part ways amicably. That's fine. There's going to be times when something comes along, we just don't necessarily see eye to eye, and that's okay.
Okay, going back to the trail, like what you said, and that one, you all come to us, I think we put 35,000 towards that bike trail, and we funded the whole thing on that one part. But there's a difference that's going on here, how some of these joint things are working, and you have to agree with this. We're either giving Yunch money or Yunch giving it to us. It's somewhere this same joint twisted is where it's not working as worse when they're both involved. You want to give it to us and we're doing it, and then we're giving it to you and you're doing it, because just like the money we give you to the trail, we're out of it. How it gets built, you are controlling it. You see what I'm saying? It's somehow the joint part, joint is working as long as it's joint with you.
Who represent the county on that project?
No, really, it was, we took it on as far as the logistics of doing it.
Okay.
Right. And all we did was put the money and we was done.
There was no one, well, my point is, who would the city have worked with? Who was our point of contact with the county for that project?
Parks and Rec came with that, didn't they? I believe Parks and Rec came on that. And they asked to represent it. We gave it, we was done. That way we had no input. It was all.
What did you want input? I'm just, is that?
Or is that what you preferred?
No. I'm just sitting saying, we are trying to work with you. So if you can go back and look at, like you're saying, some of this has worked out.
What,
Just,
I'm just saying, when you allocate the money for the trail, what was the agreement?
we just gave it to Parks and Rec. They was going to design it and work with you all.
And that was fine with you, right?
I had no problem with that.
So everything worked as it was supposed to. Is that right?
No, I ain't heard a thing. Have you?
I think we're getting.
I've got one.
I think we're getting off track, but it's
We are
just,
getting off track, but there's something that we desperately need in this county, and that is a full-time economic development person. And I don't want to play that again, but we had 2 joint meetings with the council and the commission, and we went through potential items to work together, and that was one of the top ones. And when that came up, there was some kind of remark from the commission. Again, it was about the funding, and the states that has dictated the funding formula for it, but apparently the commission didn't like that, so we don't have anybody. We got tons of grants out there right now, but we got nobody out there working for us because we can't work together. We got this.
let's look at 2 things in here. I have no problem, next commission putting it out there. Give me a rate, what you think's the buyout, and I'll put it on the floor and let's see if there's 13. But I think we still need to look at other means too I'm after 60-40, you're after 70-30, we're already sitting at 65-35. Like I told you in the last one, you can vote yes, you can vote no. But it comes down ultimately, whether I like it, Travis likes it, or anybody out there likes it. What can we get passed between both boards? In other words, what will you take to the board of our wants and see if it passes? And we'll go what you want and we'll see if it passes, because I'm 1 vote.
Yeah, I'm one vote.
I can sit here all day long.
I can too, Gary. Don't you quit saying that. We're all one vote, okay? But we're supposed to try to develop a plan for this, so.
As Gary says, my 1 vote is, I don't think it makes any sense for Carter County government to spend $1.2 million on a facility or to buy you all out. We have a perfectly good facility on a prime piece of property. And if we're going to fight over a couple, $10,000-$20,000, it makes no sense. So, currently we're at 65-35. I know y'all come at 70-30. I can read the numbers. I see what the county pays, what city residents pay. But again, we only have in my opinion, one area of solid data, and that is the call ratio. Now, until we get a full year of intake, I think we should kind of look at a funding ratio similar to the call ratio, which would be 68-32.
You come back next year and look at this again.
I won't be here. So,
Well,
I'm about to.
that's,
so if you want to put a 1-year contract out there and you have another year of data for your intake,
I mean, not, I'd hate to go through this again, but
or you do 2 years and you have 2 years of data, you have 2 years of call ratio, you have 2 years of intake that you could, somebody can make a formula from.
I want to offer clarification. Would you like for us to flesh out what that offer would look like when we put on the table? We can give you some numbers. Or do you not want to consider that? It's your prerogative, and you're the representatives of the body that came, so.
Numbers for which part, the buyout or the, I'll take it to them, but again, see what 13 goes for, then we'll get on the 65-35 or whatever. So what is
I
it?
don't see any point in doing the other if you're gonna buy it.
I just don't see them.
So what I'm saying is, if the answer is no, then that's fine.
I can't vote for the other people. There's
so
some,
make your best decision and give it to them. What's your best decision?
That's what we're expecting.
To take that to them or
next
not?
opinion decision is we're sitting with a building that's already sitting there with people already working and sitting on your land. Basically, we own a building that's on your land. Basically, deed us half of the land, we'll deed you half of the building. Then if it busts up in 10 years, it busts, it's somebody else, here it is. We go forward, work this out, and we're done. Because we're sitting with a building that basically you all didn't want us to be on there when it came up. Well, we may have to do something later, and then that's created a situation.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
You said we don't want you to be on there.
What's that?
Were you present when this agreement was drafted?
No, when basically we mentioned
I wasn't.
maybe expanding.
Yeah.
It was, well, we don't own it, and then,
I didn't say that.
well, it was in the paper of we might have to expand or work on our sewer system, and that really, and it may need to be moved.
Have I addressed that at least twice?
Yes,
before?
you have.
Can I do it a third time, or do you want me to not?
Well, I'll reiterate my point that I don't think county taxpayers need to spend $1.2 million on another shelter.
Agreed, and I don't want to be part of your tax base paying for it, which we are. So I agree with that,
So
so
educated grown adults here, let's get a,
I just don't know if you wanted an offer or not, because see, we continue to float this topic about, I'll take my ball and go
Yeah.
home.
You say you
And
don't.
we'll
want
let you have it if you want it, at a
You want
decent
the offer.
price.
You want this off.
I won't rake you over the coals, I'll give you a good price. And I'll go to my council and ask them to approve it. That's what you want.
Well, I can go to our.
Or if you don't want it, you can tell me that and we'll move on.
I don't want that. I want
I
to work
don't
it
want
out
that either.
in a partnership here.
I'm glad we cleared the air on that point, so we can forget the 1.2 million. We'll build our own saga and set it aside. They're not interested in that, Jen.
They're not interested in doing their own, or they're not interested in the offer that you made.
Neither, I took it. I think doing their own would be the worst of the two.
They do, but
Before we go,
So we work out the numbers. Would you all consider a 68-32 funding split?
how'd you arrive at that?
Well, that's right off the call ratio. That's the only hard data we've got for a full year. I said in the new contract, if you want to add in there, that we'll look at combination of call ratio and intake over that 2-year time frame, or however long you want to make this contract go for. But coming in less than what y'all currently funding. But y'all funding 134,400, you give 150 this year.
Well, I can't say I like it, but it's something. It's something. And we've already looked at the numbers on how much the city residents are paying. And hate to say I've not heard any, maybe you, Travis, I haven't heard any other recognition that that's happening. That bothers me. It just, it's not recognized. It just, instead of the 3565, we go to 3268.
That would match the call ratio.
I don't have any faith in those numbers. See, what bothers me is we came to this 70-30. When we actually showed you that the numbers, the actual numbers were what, 12 and 82?
17 was the average.
17 was the average.
Mhm.
And
City and the rest.
we didn't ask for that. We said we would go 30. I mean, it's still a terrible deal for city residents.
When we started this and this argument developed, everybody said go off the call volume because it was,
Who said that? I didn't say it. Did you say that? Go off the call volume?
when we.
I don't know who you're talking about,
Okay,
Jerry.
it was in the commission.
Oh,
It started, and Mr. Esther, she was here, and it's give me something to go back to, and everybody said we gotta have numbers to go with. And it was for animal control. Everybody said that because you had to call out a police officer, so they went to 911 for the calls. So that's what we went with.
Here's the breakdown of that, Gary, and you said it right there. It was for animal control. I said last night, and I'll say it for your benefit again and for the audience that's here. We funded two things differently in this budget. We added two things to the current budget versus prior, which was across the board raises. We all know that that's there, and that's just a cost of doing business. County gave a raise, city gave a raise, that's fine, and since they're county employees, to my understanding, the shelter board requested that the staff carry the same raise that the county employees did. That's one. The other one was animal control. And you can go pretty much, not absolutely to the penny, but pretty darn close, because I did those numbers. I had Shannon walk me through that when she had her budget. Because there was a truck in there, if y'all recall, and the truck got cut out. Because instead they got a donated one from the highway department, a small SUV. That's all that there was left was animal control. So when you're talking about funding it, okay, that's a reasonable way to look at that number. And also the other data wasn't available, by the way. We didn't have the call intake by jurisdiction at the time. So A, it related to the function being funded, and B, the better number wasn't available. And what we're talking about is funding a shelter. Not animal control, but the whole shelter, the whole shooting match. You gotta pay for the whole thing. Staff, operating costs, utilities, fixed costs, all the way down. I think Councilman Treadway's point is, not to be overly redundant about it, is if those data points are good, we've been more than generous with the offer that we've made. Does that seem fair? Not a very short way of saying it, but.
Yes,
So I appreciate what the argument was at the time for the budget last year. We're building a structure to move forward.
At some point, it was a 50-50 split. At some point, a long time ago, it was 50-50. And last year, we ended up at 65-35, and now we're bargaining at 68-32. We've come down 18% basically from what some of them were wanting last year. And I agree, I read your numbers, and I speak off intake, which is still not complete data. You're saying it's 17 or 18%. So until we get a complete slate of data, I think coming down 18% to 32% is a pretty good bargain. I understand your point. I read the numbers every day. I count numbers, and I can read the data. And you're right, the city taxpayer double taxed, and they're paying a lot of money.
thank you for recognizing that.
I'm not denying that. They are paying a lot.
Not-
But it is a joint agreement.
But I think to Jeff's point is this. acknowledging what's going on goes a long way to help people feel positive about what's happening. To ignore it like it does not exist, after a while gets frustrating. Because cities exist to have services beyond what the county government does. Not that the county government services, whatever they are, that's fine. People love to live in the county. I grew up in the county, not in a city. They exist to provide either more service or an additional service. We have a paid fire department at 3 fire stations, staffed 24/7. We choose to pay for that. The county government does not tax the residents of Carter County to pay for that. We choose in the city to pay for that. So that's an additional service. The problem here is this is a service that's provided to the whole community, all of Carter County. So when the county pays, we pay. I know I'm being redundant, but it matters. So we pay as residents of the county, and then the 25% of us in Carter County that's in the city come back and pay on the other side. Acknowledging that's what's going on, that this is not typical, it's not normal, matters. And to Councilman Treadway's point, we've already offered 30% extra when we're paying on the 70% as well. If that's the number that, again, that we had proposed was 70-30. It does help, honestly, to say that out loud and say, thank you, we appreciate you saying that, and saying, we understand it and acknowledge it. Because I'll tell you this, very few of the other 24 have actually just squared up to that point and say, guys, you know what? That's right. That is right. But nevertheless, we made an offer to pay more anyway. Not because we get extra service out of it. We pay extra for the same service. That's got to be worth something.
Yeah, well, and as I said the other night, we need to make a start to start correcting these deficiencies. I mean, this is a start. This is not an end point.
Don't get me started on the library, which has a joint name on it. And the $550,000 expense is only covered by $75,000 from the county. So again, we can go down the rabbit hole if you want to. So
On topic, because there's things we pay for that jumps.
Well, I heard that last night. What is that? I was trying to figure out what that was. Can you help me with that? I know it's not roads. I get nothing from our roads, and I know the sheriff doesn't. And what is it that the county's paying for that the city uses? But I'm not paying for it as a county resident already anyway.
All right, so we just seem to be a couple of percentage points off. What if we link capital expenditures, which in the past have always been split 50-50?
That would help us. For me, that would
If we link that in there too, I mean, would you be good with that?
make that for both operating and capital.
what's your offer? Still 6832
Off the board.
Okay, I just want to understand what you meant. Go for that?
Yeah,
All right.
it's a start. It's a start.
All right, would you even consider 60-40 for capital projects?
Why? We're not paying, you don't think we're paying enough now?
Here's the thing, in the city,
No, don't ask me, no.
I will lay it out, because here's it, again, you're only one vote. I'm just asking you to think about your people. Ultimately, in the city, the spay and neuter is where,
What that's saying?
in the city, you have more people for the animal control. You all have an ordinance with it. Sorry,
We have an
but
ordinance, but that ordinance could be changed with 2 readings.
then change it.
Hold on a minute, hold on.
But in the county, we don't.
I'm confused. Back up for what you just said. We have more animal control. You just said the
I know,
costs
you
on
just said that.
911 were 6832.
Here's the thing, if we was to expand out and go to build a spay and neuter, it would help you all more than it would help the county, because you all basically have, in the city, you just have your ordinances. So the thing is, I mean, yes, we get more calls in the county, but we're
Nothing
way bigger.
I got a question. So I'm under the impression, and y'all can correct me, you can correct me, because I've not been privy to the spay and neuter facility conversation in depth. So I'm going to talk concept for a minute. I would have an understanding that the point would be to control the litters that get born. You're gonna control the pet population for animals that probably aren't wanted, right? How is that divided city versus county? How do those pits have a jurisdictional boundary that matters?
You all have a police department when you call that actually probably shows up more than ours do.
Okay, good
So-
statement. So, yep, that's good.
Okay,
What's that got to do
Calls
with
go
what
back
we're
into
talking?
911.
okay.
Okay?
Do what?
Calls go back to 911.
32% of them by your number. Okay.
Actually, 32%. Actually, ours was 38 point something, almost 39% to 911. That's why we originally started at 60-40. I give it to him. I will go 60-32. If we get through. I think.
Thank you.
It's all.
He comes down.
I didn't do my due diligence. And Ms. Prince has reached out and got the MTAS, CTAS study, the funding formula that Sullivan County used.
Okay.
This is, like I said, I'm just putting all the data out there. This ain't in favor one way or another. When we were talking about 501c3, we were talking about Sullivan County. So I feel it's only fair that we talk about that. So basically, based off of what the funding formula is that they used, I guess between, Bristol or whoever,
Mhm.
theirs actually come out to basically an 81-19 split county-city.
Okay.
Okay. I can't deny that.
I'm
And I read your all's data, and I know where we started. And again, I still think, you're all coming up, and we've come down quite a bit. And I still would stick with 68-32. I mean, I'm recognizing the fact that, I can't deny the numbers, they're black and white.
How about you? Again, I think we've already spoken to that on the operating capital, so if y'all want, let that one percolate for a moment. If it's coffee maker, Reverend. Y'all want to talk about, one of the other issues was the board composition. I appreciate the statements that were made, I think at the last meeting we had, about the Friends group having an interest. Well, because they're an advocacy group, they're trying to help these animals, which helps us. We're pulling in the same direction. And they've raised a good bit of money, and they've spent that money at our animal shelter. So, that's a good thing. We have all benefited from that. So for them having an interest in what's going on at the shelter, I think they should have some representation on the board. Somebody threw it out last time. I don't know who it was, but if you did 2, 2, and 3, 2 county, 2 city, 3 Friends, that way if
That's what Josh was talking about. When it's totally county money and city money, when that went through, it was broke. It's the fact that you have a private, I think, and I don't want to misspoke or whatever, and we tried to get some clearance on this. The way that was broke up before, when somebody mentioned planning, I believe they have a private act. You'd have to petition for a private act.
Well,
Just
I think we addressed that last night.
that's what came up last night with Mr. Hart.
As long as we both agreed.
It's an interlocal agreement.
I mean, I wouldn't care for one of them to be on there, if that's the way you want it, but,
I look at
if you're
it,
doing 30%, that would be 7 people. If you break that down, 7 into 100, that's giving you how much percent for each one? I think 7% would be right, 7 people. That'd be 14%, so times 2. That'd be each person 14 point something, that'd be 28, so it'd be real close to the 32. So
How about
the city would have 2 votes.
how about this? County gets 3, we'll take 2, and the Friends take 2.
No. No, if we're putting 68%, we're gonna have 68% of the vote. Now, that's just That's somehow, I don't care to put one on there. But if we're putting 68% of the money, it's just like in a stock market. He who has 51% is the CEO. So on or wrong, the county,
Well, so let me clear this up. So the things you want to agree to, you will say no, but the things that you don't feel empowered to tell us yes to anything.
okay, then let's put it this way. I will vote no, and let's see how the rest of them vote. Because behind the scenes, that is one of the things, is the way this was originally wrote, just like Travis said, it used to be 50-50. And actually, to be honest, I still believe it's 50-50. It's just, there's no clarification. But right now, you are having 3 votes, and we get 3 votes and 1 outside. So basically, the county feels.
No, actually, Gary, I don't think the county, I'd have to do my numbers. You might help me, Travis. If the city residents are paying, 3 parts, in other words, $15, and the county residents are paying $4.75, it may be that the city's putting in quite a bit of money.
Saying you
And
want,
we're not, I'm not sure if we're represented.
you're saying you want 32%, well, to me, then you get.
No, I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the city taxpayer puts $15?
Per capita?
Yeah, per capita.
As it is, yes.
It comes down.
$15.36. Each city resident per capita. Each county resident puts in $4.75. Of course, the city residents put that in too. So who is putting in the most money?
Again, I back up to the board composition question. In my mind, having folks who are involved and interested and they've expressed that has value.
I'm not denying that.
Well, it sounds like.
Are you interested in seeing them on the board?
I would go 1, if they wanted down there, 1 at large, like the man that's at Big John's, where I have no problem with something like that. They need some say-so. But on the other hand, you gotta look at the county's position. If we're gonna be putting 68% of the money, they're gonna want at least 50,
That
60% of the
includes
vote.
city residents. That 68% includes $4.75 from each city resident. Right?
That's the numbers you're giving, but I don't know if they're on.
We gave it to you the other night. My goodness.
I give you some of the animals, from 911 too, so it's.
I didn't say they didn't exist.
That was the numbers, but we
There was a
didn't,
better number.
there were better numbers. More related to what we're funding.
So what's your proposal on the board then, Gary?
I would present to us to see if it passed. It'd be 2 from the city, 1 from the Friends, and 4 from the county. Thing about it is, this is one thing you gotta look at. On the county commission, you got how many that represents the city that sits here?
12.
And
They ought to be, they need to be educated about this. Some of them do. And realize that a lot of the people that they represent are from the city. And how much money the city residents are putting into these things. And the county's not.
I'm just asking you to go to your council and see. 2 from the city, 1 from the Friends, 4 from the county. But the thing about it is, if you got 12 on the county commission, you might wind up with you could wind up with 6 from the city.
Wait a minute.
It's just the
There's
fact
only
that
one
the
district.
city and the
There's
other.
one district that has all city residents. Is that correct? Okay, so the other districts have about half city, half county.
Well, some of them
They
already
all
county.
Some of
they
them.
all have county residents in every district.
True. Outside the corporate limits of the city. Yes, there are some that,
District 8 has county residents.
yes, it does. 100%. And 100% of the city as well.
Can we pick the person?
Yes.
What would you all think about 2 from the city, 3 from the county, 1 from the Friends, and then 1 at large that's not affiliated with any of the 3?
But we pick.
3, 2, 1, and 1. Do you alone get to pick the one?
No.
So what's the difference? You might as well just pick.
You all would have to still approve.
That's what I'm asking. That's a difference. Okay, so what you're saying is, to clarify, 3 county, by the way, if y'all want county commissioners to serve on behalf of the county, that's fine. If you don't, I don't think that the city council has to have it. So that may be something y'all are interested in. I think it's just an appointee from that governing body, so whoever you pick.
I'm all about smaller government, so.
So, I mean, it might save y'all a meeting if you send somebody, but that's your choice. So again, I'm digressing. You're talking 3 that the county commission alone will appoint, 2 that the city council alone will appoint.
I mean, I agree with you.
I'm just trying to understand.
Just the same as we got now. And that's been the argument. You see what I'm saying?
Are y'all changing your?
I just don't think it will pass. I mean, honestly, I agree with your standpoint to an extent.
But let me offer this, Gary. It will if you advocate for it.
I guess,
Well, then yours would have,
Here's what I'm gonna tell you, Gary. When we walk out of here and tell you we're gonna advocate for it, we will. If we tell you no, then the answer is no. The answer is, I don't know. I will tell you, I don't know that we have, because there's some place somewhere down the road, we may get too far out on a limb, that I don't feel comfortable speaking for the council. I'm not there yet, because what I'm saying is, absent that,
I can't advocate for that with us putting 68% in it and us having people on the, because,
and that's
I
fine.
don't- you-
I mean, put yourself in our shoes.
That's wrong. That statement is wrong.
Okay, it's wrong then. But either way, I'm gonna represent the county, and that's it. And
You're
the district I'm
representing
in.
me then, right?
Okay.
And you're representing Daniel. You sure don't sound like it.
okay, in the end, it doesn't really amount to a hill of beans, because in the end, it's still both governments who have to fund it.
Yeah.
If you've got all 7 at large, they still have to get.
What are we looking for in the board? Are we not looking for the people who can do the best job in managing the animal shelter? Is that not what we're looking for? Okay, and I'm not a friend of the animal shelter, okay? And
You mean you're not a member of the
I'm
organization?
not a, yes. For what they do, and for the interest in that area. And so I would think that they would be very good representatives on the animal shelter board to give us the best representation. So, you know, I don't think it's so much a matter of money as the quality of representation is.
Hang on a second.
Okay.
Let me give you an offer.
All right. We like it.
You give us the land, we'll have the building, we'll take the whole thing and we'll run it. Won't ask you for a dime. Just walk away. And it'll be run. We'll take care of the city, we'll take care of the county.
I will say this, that's a very generous offer. We appreciate that.
I'm sure it is.
Well, let me offer this just for clarification. We do have some money invested in it.
You won't have to pay anymore.
I
You're
get
paying
that.
yours back. If you have 200,000 in 2 years, you're even.
True. I was gonna say, you know, if
I mean,
you buy us out for the portion that we
why
have,
would we want to buy it? We own the building. That's the problem.
here's what I'm saying is, what was it, $203,000 we put in? I have to go look at the number. 10 years ago, that was the city's contribution toward it. And an acre of ground to go with it. How's that strike you? And then we're out.
You want us to buy you out, a building that we own.
No, because we all, see, Here's the problem here. You've argued it both ways. On the one hand, you argue now, you want us to buy you out.
You ain't have to buy us out.
No, the other way around. You know what I'm trying to say. You want to know why we're asking for some compensation. And you're saying, well, why would we do that when you own the building? But then on the other hand, you want to say, wait a minute, since we own the land, we own the building. Because the answer is, if it's pure real estate, we own the land it sits on. That is correct. It's entitled to the city. But by contract, it's to the county. But in the middle, the reality is, we put money in the building, the city did, the county put money in the building, and a third party put money in the building, and then the Friends Group's put a lot of money in it since then, and the Delaware State put a lot of money into it since then. Not counting that.
I'm agreeing with you, but to me, the simplest solution, one government. You all said same thing. If we buy you out, it's just the fact you get paid for it, but it's still run by one side.
So,
Leave the land to us and you pay us nothing. It's over with. Next year, you wouldn't have to, we wouldn't go through it. You're done. Because there's one thing about it, even yours. You're in the city, we're gonna have to take care of
The
you.
county too.
You are in the county.
That the animal shelter would serve all county residents.
It stays right there and it serve all county residents. If we owe you 200,000 in 2 years, we're even. 3 years, you've made money.
the only other, I understand, and this is not an argument with you, I'm just trying to clarify. For us, again, back to the beginning statement, I think we all have an understanding that we need the services that an animal shelter provides. We want that. So what concerns me is, and I don't know that y'all are in this position, I just want to clarify with you, and you can respond and tell me where you are. I know you said that earlier, but if we do that, what we would want to have would be some sort of, again, if down the road something happens and y'all say, that's fine, we're just deciding we're not going to be in the animal shelter business, period, just out and out, just stop. I think that that's ill-advised. I think that's a bad move. And I don't think it's supported by the public. But we'd be interested in still having one, so we don't, we'd like to be able to consider that somehow. That if y'all end up saying, well, fine, we're gonna close up shop and forget it.
It's the same thing. We wouldn't have to close up shop because right around they're county employees.
No, I just meant down the
It
road.
was made clear. You don't want it, we want it. Either way, we're gonna have to provide services in the city. So
Just saying you're gonna have to provide
this
services.
argument between the city and county is gonna have to end. You're sitting saying they're paying it, then fine, let's pay for it that way. Let us have the land, we take the whole thing.
I understand your
Put it on
offer.
the table.
Let me ask this, and this is just for clarification. I'm trying to understand. Does it have any effect on animal control as it is, or what are the expectations? Because that's part of the
It's
service.
still gonna have to run.
I understand, and I just want to clarify that point, just to clarify what, in fact.
The contract, animal control is still running in the city.
That's fine.
Because here's it. Ultimately, we're talking $120-some thousand. Next year, she has to go through this again. This has got to end. You ain't happy, we ain't happy, he ain't happy, he ain't happy. Nobody's happy. The argument is because nobody can go forward because we don't know where we're going. 2 forms of government, you can't work for 2 bosses. We can sit and say, well, they have a board, but ultimately that board works for you all
Like I heard.
and for the county.
I have a question. So if you want to cut the budget, 130 or 125 that the city gives, where are you going to come up with that money?
I'm just putting it out on the table to see if it passes.
Tax rate, where are you going to come up with that money? Going to cut employees?
No,
You're going to have them because you're still going to have to serve the city.
I understand that.
Where's that 125,000 going to come from?
Ms. Collins, the thing about it is,
I want on record, are you for cutting that? Because if the city's not paying for it, where's it gonna come from?
we would own the whole thing.
I'm not talking about owning, I'm talking about day-to-day budget, when we go through budgets here in a couple weeks.
Here's the thing, I don't know if it'll pass or not, but if it does, we'll have to figure out where it's coming from. But we go through budget meeting, getting ready to go forward. Let's look at it. It's an option. It's the same difference as them wanting us to buy it out. Where would the $1 million come
We're
from?
gonna have to cut somewhere, $125,000.
Let me ask this. When would you want it effective?
And you didn't have it last year, Where's it gonna come from this year?
And there's logistics and time stuff.
That's a dangerous thing right there. For county taxpayers and for the city.
Well, Kelly, correct me, our contribution was $150,000, right?
Currently,
We
yes.
talked about this the other night. In order to replace $150,000 that the city puts in, you would need to raise the county property tax rate 1.5 cents, or even a little less than that, I guess. 1.5
We
cents.
can't find it in the budget, it would be a tax increase.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah,
So that's what I'm saying.
1.5 cents on my,
maybe sales tax will make it.
Not with everything else going up, I don't think it's gonna be enough.
you know, I personally wouldn't have a problem with that. And as you say, it'd be run by one government.
I'm not saying it'll pass, I'm just saying,
Well, I realize that. Nobody can say anything will pass, but if you think that's the best, that's what I'm saying. I'm gonna make the best agreement that I can for who I'm representing. And I'm assuming that's what you're doing.
Y'all want to take 5?
Yeah, I just want to make a statement.
Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
As a member of the budget committee, I know this is gonna be a very tight budget without bringing on another $125,000 to $150,000 just on the animal shelter. It's gonna be extremely tight, not including the price of inflation and expected raises and stuff like that. It's gonna be a tough budget year. And already our citizens are already strapped for cash, and now we wanna add.
We're already hearing it too.
the only other
If I
option.
get into it, people complain about the golf course, price has gone up. Well, price of gas has gone up, everything else has gone up.
Fertilizer in particular.
Oh, yes, fertilizer in particular. So everything's going up. It's something we're all stuck in.
That's just an option, it's like I said, go to them, see if that's it, and we'll see what passes there. The other thing is still, if it's no, I think we've agreed to go 68-32. If you all will still stick with that, then how do you want to do on the vote count? So we're gonna have option A and B. I mean, we don't need 4, 5, 6 meetings over this. Budget season's getting ready to start.
I think to your point, Gary,
I mean, we're at option A, so let's go to option B. Let's still work out the vote count and the land and see where we're at.
I was gonna say, if that's an offer you're willing to make, I think we need to take that back to our council, let them see.
But still, what if it fails on our end? Then we gotta come back to 65-35 again?
Yeah, that's
Well,
why
let's work at option B while we're here.
I leave it to your persuasive abilities and your ability to convince them that that's in their best interest. If that's what, if you're gonna advocate for it, when you take it back to them.
I'm gonna be clear up honest, I don't wanna scrap the next commission coming in
I don't need it.
with what's coming. I would rather work out a percentage if the economy improves over the next year or two. That gives you 2 years of logistics to figure out if you want to do that. I mean, we're in budget time. We're going to look at budgets next week, and we're talking about wanting to take on the whole entire getting caboodle here.
Thing is, if they cut it, what's it down to? If they cut it down, it's gonna be down to what, 120 something?
$16,000.
It's just a lift, huh?
You want to take that break?
Yeah, if you don't mind, let's take one.
Take 5 minutes.
All right, we're back going. Yeah, when we left off, the boat count. Yeah, land and boat. Okay. They give some numbers to us, which Travis has gone over, which we may go to the commission and see, so that's what they.
He said that's what their investment.
We're gonna look at some of this with the county to see what they proposed, 203,000 for what they had invested, and then
Say that again?
Travis said you've come up, something said you had 203,000 invested, and then,
I can find the number. Again, that was originally 10 years ago.
okay.
If you want that number, give me a second. I'll find it.
I'm not denying, and I'll sit here, me and Mr. Treadway back there talking, I do agree with the county, you know, with some of this rates. I am saying the city, they do pay city and county taxes. I'd like to see a bigger rate, but again, to keep the fight from going on, I'm not real happy with the 68.32, but I'm willing to try to push that. I guess if it come to a floor, I would vote yes. I don't know if the 12 other people would go along with it, so that part seems to be out of the way now.
Okay. Operating and capital?
I would like to have at least 65.35 on that, but Travis proposed 68.32 on that too, but you know, you all are benefiting from it, same as we are. I'd have to think about that one, and again, I'm just one vote.
Let me offer this on that point. My assumption would be, you know, there's the operating budget. Look, and I think that that's where setting a funding formula helps us both, is things always seem to have friction when we come back to the budget every year. With the funding formula in, and that settles it. One other thing I've forgotten, and I think y'all may be willing to have the same thought. I think within a certain threshold, whatever board you have, let them decide what needs to be in the operating budget, so we don't have to go back and forth. We can look at that funding number up to a point. You know, I don't know if it's 5%. I think 5 is probably a good number. Because if you have an increase that's coming for something that needs to happen, you know, say they went up 2% on their total budget. So by default, like we're saying by contract, we're good, we're okay, that's fine. But if it goes beyond that, let it be something that comes back to the city and the county. Both.
You all both.
Yes, absolutely, to agree to that.
Because you can't hit you and say, hey, here's a 20% increase.
Exactly. Nobody would want that. So what made me think of that though was the second thought, and that was the first one. So back into this other one is, as it goes to capital, unless it's not part of the budget process at the beginning, there is no capital budget. So if something comes up for funding, the city and the county need to be having a conversation about it. Again, I know we've had the Friends Group who've put in, again, significant amounts of money, but that's not been any dollars from us, so that's easy. There's nothing to really approve, it's fine. But as the capital numbers come, again, I think that's where you get a proposal, and that comes before both bodies. You see what that is, and if both bodies seem to fund it, then the project can move forward. So that gives us a check on what's going on there. So it's not just a raw number and you live with it. It's, here's a funding ratio, here's the scope of work. But if it's not budgeted, you have to come back and fund it. Is that okay?
Yes, I'm fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I can vote for that. I understand that point.
Yeah, okay.
So it looks like the rate seems to be pretty much out of the way. The only thing is now the land and the vote count.
Go ahead, Jeff. You want to say something?
The land, I think we're gonna need to go back and talk to council, maybe talk to our attorney too, and see how we can,
Josh, and figure out how that's.
Okay.
how we can make that happen, yeah.
So The only other thing, I guess, would be the vote count of the money to the ratio.
Okay.
And on the land, I mean, I guess we need, like you said, see what the attorneys say. What is best for both? I mean, we can ask them, show up in the next thing or here and there. 'Cause again, how is this gonna play out with,
Let me say this, I understand you're trying to look after the interest that you have in it. Likewise, we are too. That's understandable. What that needs to look like and how the structure needs to be, again. Okay, we're open to a conversation.
I'm just a little more curious on how somebody can own land and somebody else own a building on somebody else's land.
I was gonna say, when I heard that the other night, that happens hundreds or thousands of times every day. If you drive down Elk Avenue, all of those buildings down through there, the people that occupy those buildings don't own that land. Some of them do, but most of them don't. It's because they have long-term leases with the landowners. So it's not something that's unusual, but it's by contract, you know, the way they've drawn up the contract. So like I say, it's not that unusual, especially, you know, a lot of it has, commercial properties. I think it's more if the parties can work together. However they structure that will work. I mean, that's a typical way of doing development like that. So it's not that unusual.
But anyway, we can, to your point, let's kick that one around the schoolyard a little while and see if we can find from council on both sides, if it's county attorney or city attorney, what mechanisms do we have? What options do we have? And we're open to a conversation.
And we could come back with what we've learned.
And chip away at that one.
Yeah.
So,
At 6832, I guess the biggest thing is how do you want to look at this as far as board members? Because, I mean, just try to get, it seems to be the three biggest things. I mean, I don't think anybody's got any problem with how long they're on there or.
I tell you what, Gary, maybe again, like we're gonna come back with the land. Let's both come back with a proposal for makeup of the board and our justifications for why we're recommending that. And see if we can't make those mesh. I think we can. I think we can.
All right. As far as anything else, I mean, makeup of 2 years and staggering and all that stuff, none of that matters to any of us. It don't seem to us.
we're open to it. Yeah. Fiction on that, that's fine.
Yeah.
Travis. Now, looks like I guess we don't need to go to those. And I guess they're gonna have to go to Robin Valley. Let's get some clearance on the land and basically how they.
Let me,
Let somebody else do that. I mean, that's. Because ultimately, county deed says the county owns it, so I mean, it comes back to what will pass. And that's the same as you all, it comes back to what's passed.
let me ask this for the timing question. I know we've got, again, a little bit that we can take back and try to do some more research on to try to understand. When do y'all want to come back and have another conversation about where we pick up from there? I don't have a set date in mind, and we can look at the calendar and see, y'all, just want to.
It's a week too quick.
Well, probably.
Probably.
What's that?
Jeff had said a week, and I said it's probably too quick.
We put down a contingent date in there for the 31st of this month.
Okay, well,
Oh, 31st, it's Thursday, okay. 31st.
don't I have to be out of town that day, Jim? Is it Joe?
I don't know where you planned. Have you planned it yet?
I just did. Not okay. Oh, we do have the 31st. I have a joint economic and community development board meeting, I think, that day. Don't quote me on that. Can we, how about this? The phone will work. We can schedule another meeting.
Okay.
I just don't know about that one. I want to confirm it because that's, what I have on my calendar, but it may not be correct. Because I think I had one scheduled previously, then it got rescheduled. And I want to make sure I got it right. And I can speak to the county mayor's office and see what Abby says, what's on the calendar.
We could do the 5th, yeah. That wasn't, I mean, that'd be,
And I don't want to move it unnecessarily. I mean, if the 31st is in fact open and you've already got it squared away. On the website.
can you do the 5th? Because actually I've got one actually coming up on the 31st. And then we've got highway, landfill, and education on the 4th.
Fifth might be hard for me.
Okay.
We're starting our jazz at the BK back that night, so.
Probably need to do the
Jazz at the
Jazz at the
Bonnie Cave.
Bonnie Cave, yes.
All right. You can tell
Johnson
YouTube
said,
that.
Johnson C Collective,
There you go. Jazz at the Bonnie Cave.
you don't want to miss it.
That should be highway, but we just want to do the 7th, which will be on Thursday.
I'm going to be out of town.
Yeah, he tries to stay out of
I've got
town as much as.
I've got a conference actually.
Oh, we got to clean up.
Budget here. Too many meetings.
Hate that to try.
That's an understatement of the day.
If he can make the 31st, I'll make it work. I'll figure out something.
Okay, but
31st.
well, and I can bail with JCDB if it, because I've got it on my calendar at 5 and that may not be right.
That gives me a chance to talk to Josh and you have a chance to talk to Roger Davis.
Even if
Some
it is-
clarification on that one.
I should leave it. 6. I don't know. It may be in here or in the conference room. It's normally at the courthouse. So that might be a question to answer, but again, it's after hours. It's hard to pick up. So perhaps March 31st.
If it don't, we'll.
Okay.
We've been here for an hour and a half now. At least we've got part of it.
We have made some progress. We've made some progress.
I think everything else we kind of talked about last time,
I think we're good.
no minimum fund balance,
No, I don't see any reason to do that.
create its own fund, so it has a fund balance.
I think that's advisable. And it just makes it clean. Clean and, without any question, going forward is a good thing. Just take one issue off the table, no more. So I think that would be easy.
I have to get enough fund balance to build a spay and neuter.
Okay. Anything else?
Okay.
We're good, so. 31st to 6.
What was decided about the committee members?
Nothing. We've got numbers though, and we're gonna try to go back and see what we think will pass if that's before we even step into something else.
I'm sure we'll meet again.
Thanks for all you do.
Well,